I still remember the way the light fell through the kitchen window that morning, soft, golden, ordinary. I was buttering toast, humming something aimless, and Daniel had just kissed the top of my head before heading out the door. He always did that, never in a rush, always gentle. It was one of those little things you don't realize you'll miss until the world breaks. I didn't know it would be the last time I'd feel his lips on my skin. The call came 2 hours later, a number I didn't recognize. I answered, annoyed at the interruption. The voice on the other end was calm, too calm. There's been an accident. That's how it started. I remember gripping the edge of the counter, my knees buckling before the words had even finished falling. He didn't make it, just like that. No warning, no chance to say goodbye. 1 second, I was planning dinner, and the next, I was staring into a silence so big it swallowed me whole. The sounds of that day haunt me more than the words. The phone dropping, my own breath catching in my throat, the slow, animal cry that came from somewhere deep inside me, a sound I didn't recognize as mine. I kept thinking, this isn't real, this can't be real. I opened our bedroom closet that night and his scent hit me like a wave. His shoes were still by the door, his toothbrush still wet from that morning, and there I was, frozen in a world that no longer made sense. You never think the last time will be the last time, until it is. And then, the world splits into 2 parts, before the call, and after. The days that followed were a blur, a foggy, aching stretch of time where everything felt muted, like the world had lost its color and sound. I moved through each hour as if underwater, watching life happen around me, but unable to reach out and touch it. People came, they brought flowers I didn't want and casseroles I didn't eat. They whispered words that were supposed to comfort. He's in a better place. At least he didn't suffer. But every phrase felt like paper, thin, dry, incapable of soaking up the weight of my grief. I didn't want comfort. I wanted Daniel. I wanted his laugh in the hallway, his socks on the floor, the way he'd say my name like it was a song. I'd wake up in the middle of the night reaching for him, my hand landing on cold sheets, and I'd crumble all over again. That bed became an ocean of absence. Even my own body felt foreign. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the hollow eyes staring back. I was still breathing, somehow, but it didn't feel like living. It felt like surviving, and sometimes, even that felt like too much to ask. There were moments I'd forget, just for a second. I'd pick up my phone to text him something silly. I'd hear a song and think, he'd love this, and then I'd remember, and it would crush me all over again. Grief, I learned, is not a straight road. It's a jagged, winding path full of sharp corners and echoes, and in those early days, I didn't know how I'd ever find my way out. All I knew was that the world had kept turning, and I hadn't figured out how to keep turning with it. Grief never really leaves, but over time, something strange began to happen. I started noticing small lights in the dark. It wasn't grand or sudden, it was subtle. A bird singing outside my window one morning, the warmth of tea cupped between my palms, the feel of sunlight on my face after days of rain. Tiny, almost forgettable things, but somehow, they began to stitch tiny threads of life back into me. One afternoon, weeks after the funeral, I found myself laughing. It startled me. It wasn't a loud laugh, just a soft breath that escaped while watching a silly video my niece sent. And the moment it left my mouth, guilt rushed in like a wave. How could I laugh when he's gone? But another voice, quieter, but steadier, whispered back, because you're still here. That voice stayed with me. I began to journal. I wrote letters to Daniel I knew he'd never read. I poured out my anger, my love, my questions. Some days the words bled through the paper. Other days, I just stared at the page and cried. But it helped. Somehow, it helped. I joined a small support group. At first, I sat in silence, not ready to speak, but listening to other people's grief, people who had lost children, parents, partners. It made me feel less alone, like I wasn't the only one stuck in the in-between space where love still exists, even after loss. Those small lights didn't bring Daniel back, but they reminded me that I hadn't disappeared with him, that even in sorrow, there was still beauty worth noticing, still air in my lungs, still love, somehow, in the world. And for the first time since he left, I believed that maybe, just maybe, I'd find my way back to myself. Healing isn't loud, it doesn't arrive with trumpets or feel like a sunrise after a long night. It's quiet, invisible, even, and most of the time, no one sees it, not even you. There were days I still broke down in the shower, where the sound of the water could mask my sobs. Nights I clutched his shirt, breathing in a scent that was starting to fade. I wasn't over it, not by any stretch, but something was shifting inside me, subtle, like a wound scabbing over, still tender but no longer bleeding. I learned that healing isn't forgetting, it's learning how to carry the memory without it breaking you every time. I stopped trying to be strong in front of others. I let myself be soft, let myself be honest, and in that softness, I found strength I never knew I had. I began to do small things again. I planted flowers in our backyard, ones he always loved but never had time to grow. I cooked his favorite meals, not to mourn, but to remember, to celebrate. I played music again. I danced in the living room once, barefoot and tear-streaked, but laughing through the crying. That moment stays with me. It was the first time I realized I was alive, not just surviving, but alive. Most people didn't notice the changes, but I did. I noticed I could think about him without falling apart. I noticed my smiles started to reach my eyes again. I noticed that the world, which had felt so muted, had color returning to it, soft pastels at first, but growing deeper with each day. Healing isn't a destination, it's a slow becoming. And though no one saw it happen, I knew I was quietly becoming whole again. They say grief never truly leaves you, it just changes shape. I used to think that meant I'd always be haunted by his absence, but I've come to learn it's something different, something softer. I carry him with me, not as a shadow, but as a light. In moments when I feel afraid, I hear his voice steadying me, like he used to do when life overwhelmed me. When I'm laughing with friends, I catch myself using one of his old sayings, and it makes them smile, even if they don't know where it came from. He lives in the way I comfort others now, with more patience, more presence, because I remember how he held space for me, even on my worst days. His love didn't die with him, it left fingerprints on my soul. I wear his memory like a warm scarf on cold days. I talk to him when the sky turns that soft golden pink we used to sit and watch together. I still make too much tea, the way I used to when he was alive, 1 cup for me, and 1 for him. I know he wouldn't want me to stay stuck in sadness. He'd want me to live boldly, laugh freely, and love with the same open heart he gave so effortlessly. So I do. Carrying him forward doesn't mean clinging to the past. It means building a future that honors him, that keeps his spirit alive in kindness, in courage, in love. He is not behind me, lost in some distant yesterday. He is beside me, in every quiet strength I now hold. And when I go, I hope someone carries me like this, gently, fully, with love wrapped in every step forward. Because the people we love never truly leave. They walk with us, after the storm. Grief doesn't end, it changes. It softens, deepens, teaches. In the beginning, I thought healing meant getting over it. That one day, I'd wake up and the ache would be gone. But now I know, the goal isn't to stop missing him. It's to learn how to live with the missing. There's a new kind of peace in my life now. It's not loud or triumphant. It's quiet, gentle. It sits with me in the mornings when I sip my coffee and feel the world turning without him. It walks beside me on slow evening strolls, when the sky is bruised with sunset and I remember how he loved that golden hour. It doesn't erase the pain, but it wraps around it, making room for beauty again. For a long time, I measured my healing by how long I could go without crying. But the truth is, tears still come, sometimes out of nowhere, and that's okay, because grief is love that has nowhere to go, and sometimes, it just overflows. But I've also learned to laugh again, to dream again, to open my heart to new people, new places, and new joys without guilt. I carry him with me into every new chapter, not as a wound, but as a whisper, a reminder of what it means to love deeply, to lose, and still choose to live. Grief stripped me bare, but in that empty space, something tender grew: resilience, gratitude, compassion. I'm not the woman I was before the loss, but I think he would be proud of who I've become. This is my peace, a life shaped by loss, but not defined by it, a heart that broke and still chose to beat. After the storm, there is light. Maybe not the same, but light, still. I've learned that life doesn't pause for grief. The world keeps moving, keeps turning, while you're left trying to catch your breath in the wake of loss. But I've also learned that it's okay to pause, to stop and sit with the ache for a moment, to honor what once was. Grief is not something to rush through or ignore. It's a process, a messy, raw, and beautiful process that changes us in ways we don't always understand at first. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, I started to notice something different. The weight of my grief wasn't gone, but it had lightened, softened. It no longer consumed every part of me, the sharp edges dulled, and I began to see the world through a new lens, one where the beauty of the everyday was more pronounced. The sound of birds in the morning, the laughter of children playing outside, the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze, all these little moments, once overlooked, began to feel like gifts. I started to step forward, tentatively at first. There were days I felt like I was betraying him by moving on, but the truth is, he wouldn't want me to stay stuck in the pain. He would want me to find joy again, to live fully, to honor his memory by continuing to make the most of the time I have. So I've begun to live with intention. I've learned to say yes to new experiences, to explore passions I'd put aside, to open my heart to love again in whatever form it may come. I still carry the grief with me, but I no longer let it define me. Instead, I let it teach me to appreciate the moments, to treasure the ones I love, and to remember that life, in all its beauty and fragility, is worth living. I've found a new purpose in this journey, a purpose not born from loss, but from living fully in spite of it. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. We are stronger than we think, and even after the storm, the sun does eventually shine again. If you found solace or inspiration in this space, I'd be honored if you subscribed to join this community of healing and growth. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories alive. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories, your reflections, and your own journey through life's ups and downs. We all have something valuable to share, and together, we can create a place where no one feels alone.